Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome back, listeners. I have got a great session for you. Tonight we have with us Matty Lansdowne, and he is a scientist, a nutritionist, and a podcast host of How to Not Get Sick and Die. I cannot wait to hear all of the great nuggets that Matty has. So welcome to the show, Matty.
Thanks, Debbi-Jo. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm glad that I sorted my calendar out so that I could actually be here.
I know. When you've got a worldwide podcast, sometimes those things happen.
Totally.
Well, let's get to it, shall we?
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about weight loss. Many people wonder, how can you sustainably lose weight and not always be dieting? I'm hoping that you have lots of great advice for us on that.
I definitely do. So that's first and foremost, we have to acknowledge the situation we're in. So a lot of people are chasing the sort of the end of the rainbow. You know what I mean? It's always like the bikini body or the better life or the better situation. And that's all good and well, but we can't produce different outcomes in our life if we don't understand why the outcome that currently exists was created in the first place. And so we have to look back into our past and develop some self-awareness and some self-assessment and understand what are the actions and belief systems and behaviors that led to me creating the body that I've got now, which makes me so incredibly unhappy or happy for some people, and what created that. And I don't just mean obviously fast food, because we've got to go a little bit deeper than that, because something informs that fast food consumption behavior, right? And the choice to go towards that. So we have to really start with understanding why we're in the situation we're in, why our personality goes towards those things, and only then can we ever come up with a sustainable diet strategy that works long term, because actually to make it sustainable and long term has nothing to do with the food. It's all about your psychology, your relationship with food, and managing any emotions that you have around food, because with it, if you don't deal with that, then you'll just wait until the diet's over to default to the person you were before. And in every situation where you do that, you get your old body back.
I am so happy to hear you say that. So many people that I've talked with have always said, well, you just have to change your lifestyle. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to change your lifestyle. And I'm like, but I'm 60. And it took me 60 years to get the lifestyle that I have now. Do you think I'm going to turn it around in 60 days or
totally
even 60 weeks?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, I have a bit of a mantra that I say on my podcast and with my clients, and it's one tweak a week. Like, you have to make small changes and then get used to that change, because a lot of fad diets and these extreme yo-yo dieting situations, that you jump so far out of your comfort zone that everything's foreign. The food's foreign, the feelings are foreign, the behaviors are foreign, that you use willpower for a couple of weeks and then you just slingshot back into a place of safety, security, and predictability. Even if you're terrified of the outcomes of that situation, it's kind of like that saying that the devil you know is better than the one you don't. Even though consciously and intellectually you can understand why that might actually produce a great outcome with your health, it's like, well, in this body with these behaviors, I'm not dead yet. Nothing's killed me. And it tells literally your reptilian brain that this must be the safest option, because of risk. It's a huge risk to go out into the world and behave in a different way when you have no evidence for how that might happen. So the one tweak a week strategy, it might take 60 weeks, right? In order to implement a full dietary change, because you've got to make small change, not too uncomfortable, but a little bit different. Then you can adapt to that. And then you do it again and again and again and again.
I appreciate that, because, I don't care what age you are. Your body changes through, as you age. Looking to take the important steps towards a slimmer, healthier you? We're here to help.
NeuroFit combines a line of innovative dietary supplements that support your body around the clock with sustainable lifestyle habits that help you achieve and maintain your fitness and weight loss goals. We've spent years researching the right ingredients and technologies to help support a sustainable, fit lifestyle. Not only are these products true to our promise of providing natural and clean formulations to provide you with scientifically backed results, but we've combined the product with a program based on the principles of the book, The Slight Edge, giving you healthy daily disciplines that help you compound your results over time. And we've also developed a support system to share fitness knowledge and encourage you every step of the way. Back to the show.
And so many times it's like, I used to be able to eat anything and a lot because I was so, not just, I was very active, but I also have a very high metabolism. But as you get older, it totally slows down. So I would imagine that that's really why dietary changes are so hard to implement, because as you said, oftentimes those diets are like, we're gonna completely flip the switch here. You're gonna completely become a different person. And if you're not slowly stepping into that, I could see how it would be very easy to just revert as soon as that person who is holding you accountable disappears.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. The other thing is that a lot of people, so I work with a lot of women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And so the other thing to think about too is that when we do sign up to a diet and it's like 60 days or 28 days or 10 or 12 weeks, is that we've got to look at again, back into the past. A lot of people say, I want to lose 30 kilograms or 100 pounds or whatever it might be. And then they're like, let's do it in this program. And I say, okay, first, how long did it take to create this scenario? And they might be like, oh, maybe they're 60 and they're like, I was last the weight I was happy with when I was 32. And it's like, okay, so you want to solve a 28-year problem in 12 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Which, obviously sounds very disheartening, right? It's like, and it won't take that long. It's not going to take until you're 92 to solve this problem. But the point is that it's just about getting that frame of reference away from that advertising and marketing trigger button words, which are like, oh, of course I want that. If it's too good to be true, it is. Like, it's as simple as it is.
Yeah. Well, and, it takes those little slight edge decisions that if you implement them day after day after day, those little tiny changes, it's kind of like you're going along nice and slow and steady, parallel to what you have been. And all of a sudden you like skyrocket and the weight just starts to drop off because you've done it long enough. You've made all those right decisions long enough. Now, I know that a lot of times people talk about intermittent fasting. So how does that help, not just losing weight, but how does that help my health?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're in a world of absolute privilege in the sense that we have access to food every minute, every second of every single day. And most of us in the Western world, Australia, Canada, America, the United Kingdom, and a lot more countries, literally at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, we can go to 7-Eleven or we can go, and find some food that's unhealthy. So when it comes to intermittent fasting, what intermittent fasting encourages us to do is to return back to a space where, like in time, where it was much more normal for our guts and our stomachs and our bodies to not be spending its energy digesting. Actually, I call it gums to bum. So that whole digestive system of gums to bum, that's a big portion of your body. Like, that's most of your torso, right? And so when that's engaged and working, that requires up to 40% of your blood supply, which is why most people, after they have a massive dinner or lunch, they're really brain foggy, they're tired, they might need a nap, because so many of their biological resources are being used to digest. And so intermittent fasting, in a really sort of simple fashion, just encourages us to have more time where our stomach and our gut is switching off and focusing on its own recovery, rather than just processing food from 6 a.m. when we wake up, put the first coffee in, we get a muffin or we get crumpets or something like that, and then going all the way until like the snack before bed, which many people need. And a study came out last year which showed the average American eats 6 to 11 times a day. And so we're just giving the body so much work to do over and over again without giving it a rest. So when we give it a rest, it means that we stimulate a process called autophagy or autophagy, and that's cellular recycling. Basically, is that allows a lot of the cells in our body, but particularly in our gastrointestinal system, to be recovered. And if you think about it like maybe a war zone, it's like you put the food in, and the guys on the front line that haven't had a rest in like 75 years in many people's situation are finally get a time to actually be replaced with healthy functioning cells. So being able to do that every day is really beneficial. However, a little caveat is that more intermittent fasting or more fasting is not always better. So it's not like there's a spectrum of what's right for everybody.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because I know for so many people that right amount of space differs. I've always looked at it as, as long as you stop eating at least 3 hours before you go to bed, your system should be empty and you can actually recover while you sleep overnight instead of digest while you sleep.
Yeah,
would
you're
you
totally
agree with
right.
that?
Yeah, well, the other thing is with sleep too is that a lot of people that sleep or have a big meal just before sleep will find that they're tossing and turning all night. They're like that maybe they're with the duvet, they're going on and off all night, and that's because our core body temperature drops by 2 degrees in order to sleep. However, if we do that, then we're switching the digestive system off. So our body's constantly going, we're asleep, drop the temperature, and it's like, oh no, we've got to digest. We've got to put the temperature back up for the gut functions to work well. So we can have really terrible sleep, without having 3 or 4 hours before we go to bed or between bedtime and our final meal.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that the body temperature drops. That's really interesting. So is intermittent fasting different for women than it is for men?
100%. Yes, absolutely. Because a lot of the data that's out there really just treats women as little men. And women are not little men.
I bet it was written by a man, right?
Mostly. But so they just kind of extrapolate it out to be like, oh, well, if a man does this, then it must be a little less for a woman. And in a very, very few instances is that accurate, because women have, for the most part, a monthly cycle, or even if they're in menopause, a big portion of their life was going on that monthly cycle, right? Of their hormones going up and down, and the peaks and the troughs, both emotionally, with cravings and nutrition. And so for women, it really needs to be more like a flux. It needs to sort of be like an accordion that comes in and out each week of the cycle. Once we're fully in menopause, we can move towards more of the sort of, I guess you would say, the man data, simply because the hormones are sort of falling into a regular pattern. But for women that are having a cycle or in perimenopause, it really needs to be a flow, because we do not want to be restricting calories or energy or nutrition when the body is literally trying to build an organ. It's like trying to build an environment, the endometrial lining, so that it can support life. And if you try and restrict in those times, or you try and push away your carb cravings, well, it's all gonna fall apart. Which every woman listening probably knows. I've been on a diet where I tried to do that and it didn't work. And that's often the week before bleed week too. Is often the week that most people are beating themselves up, because that's the craving week. But that's also the week that the endometrial lining is building up in its nutritional content. So of course your cravings go up, right? So we have to play to that cycle of the hormones going up and down throughout the month in order to get the most out of a female body.
Wow. I always learn from every guest that I host on this podcast. But Matty, I have to say that I probably learned the most in this short period of time from you than all of the other guests put together, because
Whoa.
I did not know why those cravings always were there. And I'm not so sure that they completely go away when you hit menopause.
Totally.
We'll have to have that discussion on another episode. So listeners, I hope you got as much out of this podcast as I did. Now, don't forget, there's got to be at least one thing that you're going to take away and start to implement right away. Now, Matty mentioned that he has a podcast, and we will put the name of that podcast in the show notes so that you can go and listen more, because I am going to start following his podcast, and I'm sure all of you are as well. Thank you so much again, Matty, for being a guest on Advantages to Aging.
Thanks so much for including me. It's been a great conversation.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.